Tonight on Closer Look, nearly 24 hours since the polls closed across the country, Canadians have had their say, and they've spoken very loudly. Mark Carney's Liberals have won a minority and will form the next government. Pierre Poilievre lost his own seat in the riding of Carleton and has some decisions to make. And Jagmeet Singh's NDP party had a horrendous night, winning only 7 seats and losing official party status. Here to break it all down is our talented team of reporters who were on the ground in Ottawa until the early morning hours of Tuesday, watching it all unfold. Jessica Smith-Cross and Palak Mangat were at TD Place covering the Liberals, and Katherine DeClerq was with the Conservative team at Rogers Centre. Jess, let's start with you. Lots of questions. Where do we stand as of now?
Right now, I am quite tired, but it was a fascinating night for someone who loves politics. It was a really interesting election to cover, and it's not quite over yet. The final ballots are still being counted, and there are a handful of ridings that are still too close to call. That could change as the day moves on, but right now where it stands is Mark Carney's Liberals are just shy of a majority. It looks like they're on track for a minority. Politician once called something like this a major minority, but what it means is they're not enough there for a majority government. We'll see as the final votes are counted if anything changes.
All right, Palak, it's a minority government. What are the obstacles that Mark Carney and his Liberals will face as a result of that? And can you explain in layman's terms what a minority government is?
Well, I guess in layman terms, we're really back to square one, back to where the Liberals were even before Mark Carney was at the helm. So a minority government, parliament, essentially means that the governing party, in this case the Liberals, will need to find a middle ground with one of the opposition parties on sort of a case-by-case basis. So, on certain legislation, that might mean some concessions, maybe behind the I forget the saying, behind the curtain backroom dealing, we could say, in order to pass some key priorities. We did see some of that in the last parliament with the NDP, but today we did have the Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet come out and say, he's right out of the gate ready to play ball with the Liberals. He didn't exactly lay out specific concessions he wants. He just kind of rehashed some of his familiar priorities around immigration and respecting Quebec values. But that's it's a good sign rather for Mr. Carney, given that it comes only hours after the victory.
Katherine, I'll move to you. A disappointing night, to say the least, for both Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives and Jagmeet Singh's NDP parties. Where do they go from here, and what happened?
Yeah, so as you said, Scott, a tough night for the NDP. They won about 7 seats, which means that they are at risk of losing their party status, and that threshold is 12 seats. We'll see what happens going forward. They may, speaking of concessions, as Palak was mentioning, they may go to the Liberals and say, we'll offer you support if you can maintain that party status, which comes with, these specific funding, speaking rights in the House. It's kind of a big deal. For NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, it was a especially heartbreaking night. He lost his seat, and he chose election night to resign. He will stay on until an interim leader is chosen. For Pierre Poilievre, he also lost his seat, which was surprising. He's held it since 2004, so it's a big deal for him. He hasn't come out and said whether he will be staying on as leader, whether he will be looking for another riding to run in terms of a by-election to gain that seat back in the House. For Liberal Canada, Bruce Vanjoy, it's quite the celebration. I don't think a lot of people would have predicted that he would win, although it seemed on election night that Mark Carney had an idea.
Jess, we'll go back to you for the final word. We mentioned off the top, still lots of questions. Can you maybe kind of walk us through what the next few days and weeks looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of things, a lot of challenges ahead for Mark Carney. One of the things he said will be a first priority is a meeting with Trump and to renegotiate a new agreement between our countries. He's talked about it being economic security, a new relationship between the two countries. So that's big one. There's also all the mechanisms of Parliament. So he's got a cabinet. He can make changes to the cabinet. There's going to be a return of Parliament, a speech from the throne, the election of a speaker. And when you're in this sort of tight, almost majority-minority situation, who is the speaker and what party they come from can be even more important. So lots of policy, lots of politics, lots of drama to come in the next little while.
There's Jessica Smith-Cross, Katherine DeClerq, and Palak Mangat covering Canada's federal election, which saw the Liberal Party form the next government and Mark Carney becoming Prime Minister. That's all for Closer Look tonight. We'll be back with another edition tomorrow evening at 7 for all of us at Village Media. Thanks for watching.